This bill is very simple. It would just modify the incorporation law in the state of Rhode Island to include workers' cooperatives as a form of business. It doesn't, some of the senators that we've talked to, any legislators that you talk to, they want to know what are the tax implications of this. This bill would have no impact on the tax law. And it would really just recognize a group of people who have come together to form a business as equal worker owners and provide the basic structure for that type of business.
That is correct. And the reason for that is because if there's no, like we said, if there's no structure, we go back to the same idea of owning a business, which is the person on the top makes all the decisions for everybody in the middle. So, by recognizing actually cooperatives, you are consciously, creating a structure where everybody is part of the decision making. Everybody has the, one work and one vote. Everybody has the same rights, responsibilities, and share, everything within the corporation, within the cooperative. So, because of a lack of experience of this in the legislative process, that's why we seek help from Rhode Island Center for Justice and Just for Justice. Rhode Island Center for Justice are the one who draft the bill based on information from other states across the United States that has passed similar legislation. Obviously, it was reviewed by many other lawyers in those particular states. After that, then we had the final draft. Then we decided to move it, to go through the process, find a sponsor, find a champion for that bill, find somebody who's going to move forward with the exact idea that we had at the beginning, because we wanted to have cooperative with social justice mentality, social justice structure.
Okay, and so that's sort of what the bill is and the history of the bill. One of the things that I would like to talk about is the history of cooperatives in Rhode Island. So maybe for the long history, the far and away history, Richard, do you have any?
The history of cooperatives in Rhode Island remains to be written. So
yeah.
It's a good project for a student at one of the universities to take on. We do know that the first African American mutual aid society in the country was founded in Newport in 1780. In the late 19th century, the Knights of Labor in the 1880s formed cooperatives in Oneyville, Pawtucket. There was actually a child care cooperative at one of the mills in Oneyville. But I think, and I don't know this is a project for someone, that when unionism came in the 20th century, that became the main form of improving the lives of working people. And cooperativism kind of took a back seat. If you look around the world, it's mostly in places that have a strong anarchist tradition. Spain, Argentina, Quebec, France. I was just in France studying actually what they call social and solidarity economy for a couple of months. And in Brittany, the region of France that I was in, about 15% of all enterprises are social or solidarity enterprises. They are mutual associations, they are cooperatives, they are social enterprises, they're socially oriented foundations. So there are parts of the world where this is quite present. And again, it's mostly places that have an anarchist union tradition. That's not what we had. We had a craft union tradition here. So I think the reason that people don't know so much about this is really historical. In the 1990s, I had done some work with the United Latino Workers Committee on temporary workers. At the time that was becoming a real issue. There was some talk about doing work on cooperatives then. And so I'm really excited to see this coming out of Fuerza Laboral, which is the right place for it to come out of.
So I wondered if maybe we could go around the table and talk about some of the places around the world that you've had experiences with, what worker cooperatives were like there, what work was like there, and maybe even if there's any similarities between what you saw there and Rhode Island, and if there's challenges or opportunities that go along with those similarities. Do you want to start?
Bueno, una de las razones, y me gustaría dar un poquito de contexto de por qué nosotros llegamos a este punto de las cooperativas de trabajadores. Y básicamente se trató más que todo cuando nosotros empezamos esta organización hace 11 años atrás, porque una de las razones de nuestra comunidad es cómo combatir la pobreza, que es un problema gravísimo, y cómo combatir los diferentes acciones por parte de los malos empleadores contra la comunidad trabajadora inmigrante. En nuestra organización, más que todo, el enfoque es acabar la explotación laboral y los sitios, el nido donde se generan todas estas explotaciones, la mayoría de los casos vienen siendo las agencias temporarias y lo que es la parte de la subcontratación. Y en la trayectoria nuestra vimos tantos malos empleadores y agencias temporarias reincidentes que se burlan del sistema y están pues prestos a seguir explotando la comunidad. Porque la razón de que nosotros estamos en el proyecto de la cooperativa, que decidimos formar cooperativa, porque es para dar una respuesta a todas estas necesidades. Sencillamente era, ok, la agencia temporaria, la subcontratación son intermediarios. Nosotros somos los que hacemos el trabajo y nosotros lo que estamos recibiendo a duras penas el salario mínimo y sin ningún beneficio y sin nada en contraprestación de lo que nosotros hacemos. Entonces, la razón, por esa razón, entonces, nosotros decidimos en el año 2011, necesitamos formar cooperativas. ¿Por qué? Porque tenemos las destrezas de hacer cooperativas, porque nacimos en un ambiente en nuestros países del cooperativismo, que es porque nosotros enfrentamos las crisis.
One of the more important movements in the last 20 years was the recovered factory movement in Argentina, which inspired a group called the Working World, which now operates in Argentina, Nicaragua, and New York City, basically providing finance for cooperatives. But we don't have to go that far. In Cleveland, there is the Evergreen Cooperative Group, which works with foundations and social entrepreneurial groups, and has founded now a number of cooperatives in poor neighborhoods in Cleveland. In Vermont, the Vermont Center for Employee Ownership gets some money from the state and works with enterprises. Now, this state is going to miss the boat on something. The proposed law is a fine law, and it ought to be adopted tomorrow. There's really not an issue here, but it's not enough, right? So we're going through a generational shift now, in which a lot of baby boomers are going to age out of their businesses, and they're going to want to sell their businesses. There are places that give employees the right of first refusal, and if the workers want to form a cooperative and buy that business, they get the first right to buy the business. We give away, and let's call it what it is, we give away millions of dollars to big enterprises in this state all the time. But we can't give just a little to people in the neighborhoods who want to start democratically owned enterprises. So there are examples in the United States. The ones I know the most about are in Ohio and in Vermont. I mean, we can go to France, we can go to Argentina, we can go to Mexico. There are many examples, but there are examples here. And I think it would be too bad if, because of a lack of vision or understanding of what actually goes on, I was struck by the discussion of subcontracting, which is absolutely correct. I was struck by the discussion of rights consciousness, which sometimes gets in the way. These were themes of the book that I published in 10 years ago on worker rights, human rights. So we can look all over the world, but we have examples in the United States. And here, sometimes, we tend to be a little bit too inward-looking. And we're going to miss the boat on this generational change. There's an opportunity to create a social economy here, now. And starting with this law is great, but we need to move beyond that, too.
Yo le digo lo siguiente, cuando nosotros empezamos este proyecto, cuando tuvimos un fondo para poder empezar este proyecto que fue en finales del 2013, pues nosotros hemos tocado muchas puertas en muchos lugares hablando sobre cooperativa. Aquí lo que existe es una falta de educación en el asunto del cooperativismo.
Just to support that, I was at a conference last week with a woman named Jessica Gordon-Nemhart, who is the leading scholar of African American cooperative development in the United States. And she was asked, what is the most important thing for a cooperative to be successful? And she said, continuous education and training. And that education and training is in two ways. You know, some business knowledge, a little accounting is not going to hurt anybody, but also continuous education on the principles of economic democracy and worker cooperativism. Because if people don't have that, then this doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's one of the things we are trying to do right now. We are trying to get, the first morning we are trying to get this through information, internal information, to change the matrix in our knowledge, to create a vision of how we can manage business, how can we do business, because we came from this labor culture to being employee, to be subordinate, to be obedient.
That's right.
I mean,
We need to change.
It's in the culture.
Because the colonialism educated us to obey, to follow their rules, and we need to break the mold and think different, because we need to empower the people to have this vision from business to grow. Because just last week in UMass, one student works in this factory, is very concerned about how can the workers support this employee to compete with the industry. And I'm asking to him, well, do you know how many profits he wants in the year about this business? Well, so, yeah. And how is the cost of the investment in the works? Was less than half of the enterprise. There is your solution. Take away your employer, make a cooperative, take the enterprise and develop the work and develop the power of the workers, and then you can compete. Because if you don't have this guy taking the big profit, and you can compete with the other people. We have the expertise. We do the work every single day in our enterprises, but we don't know how to manage these things.
Yeah, I mean, I think of how many businesses, it's been said, local businesses have been said to be not competitive anymore.
Yes.
And maybe could be competitive if they were structured differently.
In the roofing work in Birmingham, the people says the owner, the contractor of the company takes 80% of the profits. If you take away this guy and create a cooperative, you can compete with better prices, even for the people you are working for, and do this kind of business more decent for your consumers, for people who hire you to develop this kind of works. The work is not too expensive. The profits make it this thing is expensive. This savage way to get profits.
Yeah.
The greed in the middle makes this insane.
Well, there's I think also of something that I heard about recently, you know, the games that we play, let's say when we're kids, probably one of the most popular board games in the West or in the United States for sure is Monopoly.
I don't like it.
And you know that whole
Play it that
game,
way.
you win by consuming everything.
And greedy.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is that not all board games are like that, and so I'm not a board game expert, but my understanding is continental Europe, the German style of board games, actually is inherently cooperative. You have to form alliances with the other people playing the board game, and you can't win unless you actually cooperate. So it teaches people to think differently from when you were a little child, you know. And this goes into another question that I wanted to bring up, because some of the reactions that we've gotten from, we're talking about the bill especially today, from legislators have been very interesting and very telling. And recently, one of the reactions when we were giving testimony on the bill was, there was a concern from one of the legislators that will workers know what they're getting into when they go into a worker co-op. I mean, they basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but they said, you know, owners take on a lot of responsibility and they have a lot of education about how to manage a business, and the fear of this person was that, you know, workers wouldn't know what they were getting into and suddenly faced with actually having to run the business themselves would be overwhelmed. What thoughts do we all have on that?
Pues para mí eso es ignorancia, porque básicamente una de las razones que Fuerza Laboral incluso la legislación, porque nosotros queremos, nuestra meta como Power Network es institucionalizar las cooperativas en el estado de Rhode Island. Entonces necesitamos primero pues empezar con lo que es la parte de la incorporación y la parte de educación, para entonces cómo invertir socialmente en este proyecto. Y básicamente no es algo que nosotros estamos inventando, simplemente estamos tomando la experiencia adquirida que tenemos en nuestros países para ayudar a las comunidades a que puedan levantarse, y entonces es una manera. Entonces el Estado invierte dando educación, dando entrenamiento y dando la estructura de formación a las cooperativas, pero no hacerlo de una manera individual, porque a la vez tiene que existir esa parte de relación entre una y otra cooperativa de apoyo. Y básicamente de esta relación nosotros hemos desarrollado una parte importante es cruzar sectores, sector público, sector privado, la parte comunitaria. Entonces todas estas cosas debemos navegar y apoyarnos mutuamente.
You know, it's the same thing people say, well, how can women possibly run a business, you know? Well, women have been running businesses forever. They're called households, you know, and they do it with a child on each hip. So it's kind of a crazy thing to say. On the other hand, this problem of the colonialism being in people's heads is a real problem. I work on some of these issues in Cuba, where people are used to the state doing everything. And the notion now that people can have their own business and run them democratically is a very difficult idea for people. So it's a very difficult idea for people here too. It's not for everybody. If people just want to have a job and go home and watch sports on TV, this is not for them. If they're interested in community, democracy, participation, having some control over the conditions of your own life, it's a lot of work, but it's for you. So, you know, I don't think anyone's saying that every enterprise needs to be a cooperative.
No.
But I think what we are saying is there are people who come out of traditions where they know how to do this, and if the state would at least just get out of the way, a little help would be nice. Yeah. But if you can't help, just let us do our thing.
Step aside.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Generally, there's a lot of organization going on right now to resist various political movements that people are intimidated or scared by the direction of the country. And I think one of the lessons you can learn from that is we won't always have control over who gets in office, in state office, federal office, whatever. But one of the ways you can have more control over your own life and what is happening to the people around you is in the workplace if it's a cooperative. But if you're just an employee and you collect a check at the end of the 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, and go home and, like you say, watch TV, you have to rely more on your politicians and so on. And you may have to go and march and call and stuff if they're doing things that you don't like. But if you actually have a role in the workplace, your workplace becomes a place of organization and power as well. Just like traditional businesses are actually very powerful in our political system. We all know that. But if it's a democratically controlled workplace, more people have a say in how that power is used.
Well, I think, sorry.
Go ahead.
I think one of the things that is worth noting is that we're trying to maybe go back to where we gave up, workers gave up the rights to collective bargaining. So when we gave up those opportunities, we allowed for states to pass the right to work laws. And so now they took away our power. We gave away our power. So what we're trying to do with this, with the cooperatives, is to bring that back. Give us. We're looking for the right to collectively bargain for this, for better working conditions.
Not so people thinks about this wage theft thing affects more immigrant people. We have some data in Massachusetts about 80% of the people who suffer wage theft are white people, and doesn't do anything about these things because in a cultural way it's not correct to claim.
Teachers.
People
Teachers,
who
yeah.
works for the government. The government is a big theft that takes the wages from the people, and the people doesn't claim these things. We need to think about how we are educated. The perception of this immigration thing is because we speaking loud and we
Yeah,
make this
anyone who's worked in an office in a white-collar job knows the pressure and
Yes.
how we've been made to work longer and longer hours for the same wage.
Because
that's wage
I'm
theft.
sorry to say that, but the white people are forming to be quiet, to be obedient.
No.
Sorry.
I think for me, when I think about cooperatives and why I came to today, as I'm thinking about what next, it's also the intersection of that work is no longer being work, but today will no longer be. Like, we are training our young people to do things that are no longer going to exist because of the world of technology. And if we don't shift the understanding of what does it mean to build power, to build a political space of our own, and understand what a strategy, like a cooperative strategy, that's larger, right? Because you're talking about the solidarity economy. If we're not shifting and helping folks understand that it's not just about this one thing, it's the larger sense of work today is no longer. So you talk about Ubers, that's not our work. But if we don't figure it out, shift our frameworks on how we think about that, we're going to lose out even greater. And so it has to be, how do we intersect to help think about what do we actually want to have for our future, and really build the power here to help people build a vision around what's possible.
One of the most biggest and I don't know what to call in English in proper way lies the people says us, the power people says us, because the childhood and the young people are the future, and we need to provide them in the future about conditions. It's a lie, because they live today. They need today conditions to grow, to develop. They need today opportunities, and we are thinking in the future to provide in the future something. It's a lie. So it's a very comfortable lie to do anything at all about these things. We need to grow together about these, create opportunities for the child, for the young people. Because if we don't do that, we're going to lose it. And we can create cooperatives for everything. You think in something and you can create a cooperative. Education, housing, food distribution, farming, anything. Because it's community power. And you can get together profits from that and grow together from that.
Por ejemplo, Fuerza Laboral en 10 años. Fuerza Laboral en 10 años quiere formar 4 cooperativas. Una cooperativa es un promedio de 12 personas, estamos hablando de 48 personas, que son 48 familias. Eso significa un poder, porque también podemos tener poder político para demandar cosas. Entonces, si no tomamos conciencia de lo que el poder que nosotros tenemos nosotros mismos, nuestras economías van a estar siempre estranguladas. Entonces, y prácticamente la cooperativa también es organizarse uno, tomar poder de nuestros recursos. Por eso es que nos llamamos el Power Network. Entonces, nosotros somos dueños de nuestros recursos. Nosotros tenemos que empoderarnos nosotros mismos. Nosotros tenemos que buscar personas que nos representen bien en nuestra comunidad. Nosotros no podemos esperar de que nos estén maltratando. Nosotros estamos llevando economía, estamos creando un bienestar, y nosotros debemos tener el control de esta situación.
You mentioned Uber, which is something we've talked a lot about in the Democracy at Work Providence group, because it's so interesting as a recent model of sort of new. It's a good example of a lot of these new types of gig economies and stuff like that. And the funny thing is it hasn't been around for very long, and already quickly the programmers in the Bay Area, it's come out that there's a lot of really bad fraud and exploitation of workers and the computer science engineers and stuff like that. And what's interesting about that is, we were always told, talking about myths and lies that are told to your children. You're sort of told that, if you become an engineer, if you become a computer programmer, you're going to have a good job, you're going to have a good opportunity. Well, it turns out that may not be so true. Yeah. And then on the other side of their business, the drivers, right? When you look at the drivers, there's 2 categories of drivers. Some people who are just doing it sporadically, occasionally doing some driving here and there to make a little extra money. And that's what it was always sold as, right? As like, you can just drive a couple of hours a week and pick up, money to go drinking on the weekend or something, whatever, or an extra, that's sort of what they. But then there's this other group who does the bulk of the actual hours of driving, and it's basically a full-time job for those people. And those people don't have the protections that they're doing the same job as taxi drivers do still, try to compete for, but they don't have the same protections, they don't have the same, the riders don't have the same protections in the cars and so on. So it's interesting when you talk about these new models, that's worker cooperatives are a new model for a lot of people, but they offer a lot of protections and benefits and growth and stake for the employees to actually gain equity in something. Whereas these other models strip you of any equity whatsoever. You're just a contractor, basically.
Por ejemplo, el Uber, la persona que maneja es la que tiene que autofinanciarse su servicio, todas las cosas. Prácticamente nosotros nos estamos manipulando con el sistema porque prácticamente estamos entregando todo por unos miserables pesos, que al final no nos queda nada. Solamente son ellos los que se benefician, pero estamos pagando miles de cosas. No, y lo interesante aquí, tú para el dinero, ¿dónde está? Porque es un dinero globalizado, no hay una reinversión, no hay ninguna reinversión en tu barrio, no hay una reinversión en tu país, en tu estado. Tú al final no sabes dónde va a llegar ese dinero.
The corporate world has a lot of profits, and right now don't even live and pay taxes in the United States. That's global business. Move to Singapore, to Bahamas, to other places, and doesn't pay taxes, and doesn't even the money to grow this country. That's the thing. And that's why we are trying to change even the language we are speaking about. How can we build these cooperatives? Because we need to speak this language. We need to speak in capitalism words. And that's why we are trying to create enterprises from the workers. And as IWCC, we are trying to, and I need some water to wash my mouth. We are trying to create a cooperative from cooperatives. That's interesting because we need the money from all cooperatives together to grow and develop other businesses. And because in this country the corporate world has rights.
Yes.
And we can provide these rights to our members. That's interesting. That's new. We can speak capitals, but in other understandings. I need to speak slow these things because we need to understand what I'm talking about.
I think that's a really good, there's nothing set in stone that says that our democracy has to protect rights for these certain types of
And
businesses.
let me finish.
And
That's
not
the other
cooperative
thing.
businesses, yeah.
We are trying to create a democratic process in gender ways. In our houses, we need to create democracy first. Because if we don't create this democracy, we cannot create our social enterprises. And we need to develop different ways to the relationship between us. That's the thing. We need to build and create democracy in our houses, in our communities, in our organizations, in our enterprises, and then we can grow together. That's the thing. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Do you have questions? We'll go back in a few minutes.
Thank you.